So this is going to be kind of different. Wasn't really too much for me, too many VODs in this player. So what I'm going to kind of do is kind of explain the concept of timing. And in the VOD, we kind of see they screw up the timing mostly because of some like mechanical stuff, like they just kind of like miss a rollout or whatever. But the big thing we're gonna look at is like the how they actually get punished for it. Um, so it'll still be just as good for like people watching that aren't the wrecking ball we look at, but just keep that in mind. So I kind of have here is the definition, kind of what I mean by timing, is by using resources at a time that give you the most value. So if you just use them whenever, you're not going to get as much value one time as you would the other time. So it's kind of finding how we can obviously just get as much as we can. Um, so I just have some examples here on Wrecking Ball. Timing is something that is on every single hero in the game, in every game really, uh, like video games, like hockey, basketball, whatever. Um, so just some examples of pile driving when the team is diving at when your team is diving at target, right? You're playing ball, you have a tracer, and there's a Zen in the enemy team. When your tracer's on her, you pile drive. Pretty simple. And then there's kind of the opposite, right? We just like we're kind of when the enemy team's pushing in, when they're diving our Zen, let's say they're on Rhine, we go in and we boop them around so they can't do it, or we pile drive in and we stun them so they can't do it. And then I have touching point at the correct time. So example, if you touch point like super early when your team's in spawn, the enemy team's just gonna come back, get you off point, then go back to the choke or whatever they're holding, and make it so your team can't like, walk through either way. Or you touch point in the middle of the fight, so yeah, you might back cap, but then you're just gonna lose the fight and they're gonna come back and get it again. So, um, and then just another example of ultimate your team can follow up, right? If you throw mines out, the enemy team, oh, they panic, they run around, but your team's again in Narnia, so they group back up and take the fight. That's also pretty bad. Here you can grapple and play off here if you want. Um, Reason is if like the only time like you're always gonna want to dive them around here, like every comp you play against, whether it be like a enemy ball comp, an enemy Risa comp, a six-man comp like they're playing, or just like a Winston Ana, you're always gonna dive them around this side here because this is what kind of matters. The only time you're ever gonna fight somebody around here is if they're on brawl and they want to roll out there, and that's not really a fight you want to take. So if you go this way, it just lets you get there a little faster. You have the potential to boop them off. But the big thing is what we end up losing, like punishing the fight for, is that they end up getting here and taking the fight before we're ready, right? Because we took this longer flank. Um, and the same thing would happen if they're on like a Brian comp with Lucio, whatever. Uh, so the big issue here, and why we end up, we'll just play it out first, is they end up getting on our team. We're waiting, and then we end up getting a nice pile drive. We move them around, but what the issue with this is that our team can't really follow up. Like our Zen's a big damage, our soldiers big damage. Um, so if you were to pile drive them around here when your team was set up to fight, they peek, they can fight here. They can actually get value off of that pile drive, off of that engage, where you did too late. So the enemy team, so your team had to back up, and then when you're fighting their Winston, you pile drive them all. They're sitting here like trying to peel off a Reaper. So that most of the time you see here, we get there too late. It's gonna be happening against this comp. What happens is, again, they don't have to worry about like a Zen or a soldier shooting them, or the Reaper does at least, but they can turn around, kill you, you die, and then turn back around and still like deny your team space. And again here, we see a little mistake we made, but it ends up making it so we're kind of not really involved in the fight. So they cap point, our team actually pushes out and takes this area, which is good for us. And then right now, because we haven't engaged, they're going to be able to push their team back and hold this choke without worrying about a ball. So, but if we engage, let's say right now, or maybe a second before, our Zen soldier can actually follow up with you, get a kill, or force a lot of resources out. But they end up getting a kill, obviously, which is bad. But also, even if our team did survive this somehow and they backed up, they're not out of the fight. So if you pile drive them, again, they're not going to do anything. They're going to turn around and kill you. And now we engage. We're really late there. And similar to before, because the Somber doesn't have to worry about a Zen or shooting, trying to kill maybe a Brig or whatever, she can just turn around, hack you, and focus you down.
Mercy on call.
Ready for combat. Speed maximum. Current
So
command.
this is actually a good
Protect
example of a
objective.
good point touch. Now, why is this a good point touch? You want to pay attention to where obviously your backline is, whether that be your Sigma, Zen. If you're playing balls, you're generally going to be a Zen or Ana, maybe a Diva, whatever. If you're playing Tracer and you have a Winston comp, probably be your Ana again. Ryan is probably going to be your Ryan, Lucio, May, whatever it may be. They're actually in a spot where if the enemy team turns around, touches point, they're close enough that they're not going to die, but they're close enough that they can actually move and go over here without being punished. Where if you did it really late, and your Zen and Brig and Sigma were right here fighting, and you touch point, they would die. Vice versa, if they were right here, coming back from spawn, you touch point, just gonna run back, force you out, and then go back to the same spot. This is actually good.
Move to the beat.
And you see, you end up splitting them, they have to use ults, and your team survives it even though the enemy uses ults, which is good.
Current command. Attack objective.
So let's check the point touch. Where's the Zen? In a pretty good spot. So this is pretty good.
Apagando las luces.
Area denied.
Again, we did miss time it. Granted, it was because their DMP is kind of a weird moment. And then obviously we missed mine. It's just kind of unfortunate. I think, in hindsight, we want to go here and use them. But either way.
Routing power to forward shield.
Repairing. Full speed.
Nerf this.
And then the fight's kind of lost when we get there. So just a little mechanical misplay in the mines. We don't really, maybe could have gone all the way around. Not all the way around, but rolled through behind them, I guess. So this is actually an example of a bad point touch. Anyway, we talked about it before. Our Zen is not going to get anywhere with that, right? Like if they turn around, force you out, come back, your Zen's still going to be Zen's still going to be fighting to get out of here. So again, I want to keep it short. Just more of like a little concept I want to talk about. So again, apply this to any character in the game you want. And this wrecking ball, making sure we keep that in mind, right? I did skip over one of the times we missed time to dive, but 3 of the 4 fights we're super late to the fight, and it's over by the time we get there. Yeah, that's kind of it for the VOD.